Good morning. I'm Ann with Kai Dragon Media. This is the gardening and cooking channel, and I'm going to give you a quick tour of the garden, a little bit how we're expanding. These are a lot of the plants that we have planted in pots to make room for some of the other stuff in the garden, and also to show you that you can plant things in a pot if you're in a small confined space. Later we'll be doing some stacking planters. They're due to arrive this week, and that'll be exciting. Also going to be making a terrarium type planter later for some lettuce. Anyway, these are radishes. They don't need a lot of room to go down with the roots, so they were planted in the shallow planters and about an inch of mulch on them. Kind of worried about dry weather, so we've been mulching everything really heavy, and if we have to, we'll be putting up more shade cloth over these plants. We've got a squash plant and quite a few tomatoes, and of course there's flowers in between. I'd like to keep flowers around to help bring in the pollinators. This little squash plant is doing really good. However, it's got mostly male flowers on it, so nothing developing yet. And here's another one starting out, but once again it's got male flowers. Got a few tomatoes on our tomato vines, and some of these are not going to get very big, and they're not going to do a lot of producing. Once they hit their limit, that's it. The mint is doing really good finally. It was really looking bad when we replanted it, but it's taken off nice. The spearmint is really good, and I tried some of the chocolate mint the other night. It was wonderful. Moving over here, I've got some of my spices, and this area gets shade in the morning, and then the sun will be beating down on it later. We got some of the stevia, the artificial sweetener, some dill, some more mints, margarine, chives. The chives are looking really good. And other plants. We even got a lemon tree and a lime tree, and they have some new growth, so I was excited about that. And of course, around my fenced in area, you can tell I really like flowers, so they help bring in the pollinators. And there's my little helper. She's searching for probably either a rabbit or the kitty cat that we noticed was in here last night. The squirrels usually let me know when there's a cat around too. They do a lot of chattering. Anyway, here is some more plants in here, and I think there might be a mystery strawberry plant that's in there that's going to get replanted later. Probably be doing that in the evening, because now that it's getting so warm out, don't want to do that stuff during the heat of the day unless you get up early morning. And of course, this plant is really taken off in here. Real pretty and pink. My flowers, my bachelor buttons especially, are getting really trampled down. And like I said, little black and white kitty has kind of moved into the territory since we're feeding birdies. It doesn't surprise me, but he's trampling down my flowers. And the trumpet vine is looking really good, and we did have a nice little hummingbird visitor. Seen him once, I haven't seen him since. Hoping he'll come back. There's some sunflowers that I didn't have to plant with the birdies and the sunflower seeds, especially for the cardinals. They kind of got self-planted. These little flowers are looking real pretty. And my lilac bush that I planted 3 years ago, it is really taken off. And of course, this little tree eventually is going to flower once it gets a little cooler. Right now it's not doing much of anything. And the roses I will end up probably trimming back because it's going past the line again. I've added a few things to the garden. We're slowly making progress this year. Since I injured myself, I can't do all the things that I used to do. Have to do them very slowly. I don't want to get hurt again. And in just a few days I'm going to turn 67, so it slows you down. The gate, eventually I'm going to put some screen on the bottom to help make sure that we keep the rabbits out. So his asparagus is looking really crowded in there, but he's wanting it to do really well, so we have a lot more next year. So we're kind of letting it go. The seeds are falling onto the bed, and there's 3 tomato plants in here, and they are getting quite tall. I need to go through and prune them, and that is probably a project tomorrow. Well, I can be under the shade cloth doing that. One little squash plant here, it's slow getting started, no flowers on it yet. We did plant a lot of nasturtiums in the bed. That's supposed to help with the insects and stuff that like to attack the squash plants. And there's okra planted in here. It's kind of hit and miss as to whether it's really going to come up. Sometimes you get a batch of bad seeds, and that's not a good thing. Got some more squash plants in here that are slow getting started. More tomatoes over here. One of our little visitors, he's not real happy with me right now because there's no nut roll out for him and the bird feeder is empty. But he's been staying out of the garden, so that's a plus. Pepper plants, they're growing up a lot taller. Nothing really on them as of yet, but a few flowers, and of course the white butterfly is a little enemy. They like to wreak havoc on your plants, especially things like your lettuce and some of your other leaf plants. They just go to town and mess things up for you. The eggplant, it's getting a little taller. Got some pole beans there. They're not very big yet. The other bean plants, they're the bush beans. They seem to be doing pretty good, but we did have to string up some wire to help keep them intact because, as you can tell, they're producing. There's some nice little beans on there. So I'll be probably spending some time out here picking green beans. He's also got some yellow beans or wax beans planted in here too. And a few more of the eggplant. My son really likes eggplant. Here's our pepper valley. All kinds of different peppers planted. And you can see this is supposed to be a red pepper. However, I think they put the wrong label in there. It looks more like a variegated pepper to me. But we'll see what's going to turn out. Some more nasturtium in with them. And of course, one tomato plant that is just went crazy. I put it in here by itself. Didn't have room for it, and it has just decided it really likes this bed. There's some more pepper plants. You can tell Nothing really on there yet, but they are growing up and there's getting a few flowers. Our bok choy, it's ready to cut. It's also pulled the seeds off of it. More tomato plants, and they're getting kind of crowded, so there's a couple of them probably going to get transplanted to another area of the garden so they have more room. They need a good airflow. Nice cluster. They're fun to come out here and eat when you get about 6 or 7 that are all ripe. And of course, you know me again, I have to have some flowers to help bring in the pollinators. And they're like being under the shade cloth. I was very grateful that my husband was very willing to help with that. You get a lot of time and money invested in a garden. It's fun, but it's very rewarding when you're growing your own food. And last year we did can a bunch. We're hoping that we have the same turnout this year. We canned a lot of tomatoes and made a lot of salsa. And as you can tell, I'm really kind of a tomato nut, so we have a lot of tomatoes planted. Everything's growing though, getting nice and tall. Row of grapevines here that my son planted a couple years ago. They're really getting nicely loaded on there. And then, of course, they do have seeds, but it's going to be very fun to pick them. I can hardly wait. And I have little chairs scattered around where I can sit and do that. This is a berry plant that is just one of the little nuts. It pops up here and there and everywhere, and so if we don't want it there, we pull it. You can replant it, and a lot of times it'll sprout back up, but I kind of want it to stay confined to this area. The berries I'm finding are real sweet. Here's about 4 little pepper plants that are in this planter, and they're starting to do a little fruit producing. I don't know if you watched, but we did have one video where we planted some carrots that were kind of on a string. They haven't come up yet, so I'm hoping I'm going to see a sign of them before too long. I don't really want to go out there and start pulling on stuff until I know for sure what's what, but I am going to add some more mulch to get it heavily mulched. And I added a really cute little wind ornament to go with my flowers. Got more flowers in here to help bring in the pollinators, and another bed with flowers that were freshly planted just a few days ago. Got some cantaloupe and some, I'm not really sure what he put in there, one of the spices in there, but I think it's going to seed too. It happens a lot. You don't have time, and you think you have more time than what you do. This one I need to add straw mulch to. Haven't gotten any squash off of this plant yet, but it's got a lot of flowers on it. And once again though, they're mostly male flowers, so it's not really a good thing, but hopefully some female flowers will show in there. These are some Roma tomatoes he planted from seeds. They were slow getting started, but now they're finally doing their thing. And of course, here's my other squash plants. We've taken quite a few squash off of here already, and they taste amazing. Love putting them in there with the zucchini squash. So far we've been having to still buy them. We've got some beets in there that are finally starting to take off. It's been slow getting started. Lots of flowers. Some more plants. There's my crookneck. Got a few of them growing in there. And the strawberry bed. Been trying to get the runners to take off. He's lost all of his strawberries last year. The Kansas heat was just too much, and it pretty much done them all in, so he's kind of starting over. Takes a while to get them built back up, but he's got 3 or 4 different kinds in here. This was kind of our catch-all, where we put some extra plants. There was a couple squash plants in here, some extra tomatoes, I think beefsteak mostly, and they were transplants that were in a flower pot, so they're finally starting to take off. But it's fun to come out and look at the progress. Like I said, the cilantro, it's going to seed, but he likes the cilantro. And of course, so good, just yummy. We don't use any chemicals, so it's nice because you can come out here and pick and eat. We've got some bird netting up on this side. We're just trying to keep the squirrels